Hello there and welcome. In this episode, we're going to start working on a new system in our game, and this may take a few episodes to complete because it's a rather large system. We are going to create a planting and harvesting system. Now, obviously, every game has a different type of planting and harvesting system, so it really depends on what you want to create for your game. I'm going to create some kind of simple system that will have planting, that will have harvesting, that will have watering, and then you can expand upon it. But before we start with the actual episode, I just want to show you some changes that I made in the game. So we're going to move from our initial area and go over here to this little valley, and I created a small village over here. And if you're interested in the asset pack that I used, it's this Fantasy Kingdom, and you can find the link in the description. So I created this small village just so we have some kind of environment of a town, and the next few episodes are going to take place over here because when we're going to create the shopping system, we want to have some kind of shop and we want to have NPCs, so all of this will happen over here. And I'm really not a level designer. I don't really have a lot of experience in that. All I did was take the prefabs out of the asset pack and I placed the different houses in a random way. I added some of our trees, some grass around them. I also tried to make the houses look a bit random. So for these ones, I placed the flowers over here, and these ones I changed it a bit. There's also a small thing that I added that seems kind of cool, and it connects to our day-night system that we created in the last episode. All I did was create lights, and then when we reach evening, these lights are going on. And then when we reach the morning, these lights are going off. So it's a very simple system, but it's just an idea that you can add in your game, and it can add a lot to the atmosphere. So if I go into this village, and then I have all the buildings, and this is just an empty object that I created with a script, and I created point lights, right? You can simply create a new light, point light, and then I move these point lights to sit underneath the actual light prefabs. So these models come with the asset pack, and I just place these point lights underneath it. Now we're not going to see it working because it's still daylight, but soon I'm going to start the game, and at night you're going to see that it gets this nice glow. So I created all of these point lights for all of these lights, and you can see that it's not exactly in the middle, it's somewhere around here, because it's something you need to test with and see where the light actually makes sense. So each house has this little light, and then inside this parent object, I have this village lamp system script. It's nothing too complicated, and that's not part of this tutorial, but you can copy this. We're simply checking if the current hour is the hour that the lights should go on, and if the lights are not on, then simply loop over all the children inside this object, right? Loop over all of these point lights and then enable them. And then also set lamps to be on. But if the current hour is lamps turn off, then it's going to do the same, but it's going to disable them. So a very simple script, but it's going to look nice. And now if we start the game and we go to this village, and we wait until it's dark, you can see that all of these lights are on, and it gives us a very nice vibe. Again, I'm not a level designer, it's a very simple setup, but it already looks good. And you can notice that the time is very fast. This is just for testing. Obviously it shouldn't go this fast. And again, when we reach 9 in the evening, it's going to turn these lights on. And it's a small system, but it adds to our game. So you can do it in your game if you want to. So now let's start talking about the actual thing that we want to learn in this episode. We are going to create a planting system. Of course, there are many ways to do it depending on the style of the game. One way to do it is to have some kind of pre-designated area for planting, and this will be the only place where we can plant. For example, your player gets some kind of house and then he has a small garden, and this is the only place where he can actually plant. The other way is to craft these plantable areas, for example, a planting pot or something like that, and then place them anywhere you want. This can easily be done the same way we created the other placeable items like the storage box or the campfire. The important part is that you can use the code we're going to have for both ways. In the first way, you're simply going to place it at the start of the game, and in the second way, you're simply going to craft some kind of object that is going to be using this code. Now, I'm going to focus on the first way just because I don't want to waste time on creating a new placeable item, something that we already learned how to do. Right? We already learned how to create the storage box or the campfire. You simply create an item, you add all the relevant scripts, and then you can simply select it in the inventory and place it in the world. So if you have a planting pot, you can do it the same way, and then you're going to add the code that we're going to learn on this planting pot. For this tutorial, I'm going to use this simple cartoon farm crops. It's a very simple asset pack with different models for plants. I'm not going to create many models. I'm just going to use a few of them so you get the point. You're going to have to find your own models to create your own plants. The first thing we're going to do is open our environment tab over here, and then we're going to create a new category and we're going to name it plantables. Then we simply need to create some kind of soil object that we can plant our seed into. So we go into our cartoon farm asset, we go into the prefabs, standard, and we have this dirt pile. Again, if you have this pink thing, it's because of the URP. I already showed you how to fix all of this. If you don't remember, you simply go to your materials, you select all of them, and then you click over here, render pipeline, upgrade project materials or upgrade selected materials. Sometimes it's going to do the upgrade, but you're still going to see this over here, so don't worry about it. So I'm simply going to take this one and I'm going to drag it into the scene, and I'm actually going to drag it into the plantables. So you can see that it's just a small object that looks like some kind of hole that is dug in the ground. Of course, you can use any kind of model. Maybe you want some kind of dirt patch or something that looks nicer. We're going to use this. Then we want to make this into a prefab, so if we make changes to it, it will apply to the other ones. And then we want to create a bunch of these, so this area will look like an actual farming area. So these will already be here when the player starts the game, but if you want to be able to create them out of nothing, then simply take this dirt pile and make a prefab out of it that you can instantiate, like the campfire or the storage box. And maybe you can also decide that if your player is holding some kind of tool for digging, then he can point at the ground and instantiate this thing. But we're not going to go this way. You already know how to place these items in the world using the placeable system. So we are going to have them already placed on the ground, but it's going to work the same way if you just want to instantiate them using other methods. Next, we're going to create a script that is going to control these dirt piles. So on one of these dirt piles, we're going to create a new script and we're going to name it soil. Then we're going to apply it to all of these prefabs, and now all of these prefabs will have this script. For now, we're only going to have one thing inside the script, so we can delete this, and it's going to be a simple bool that will be is empty. And this bool will let us know if this soil is empty or if something is planted inside of it. So in the beginning, it will be empty, so we set it to be true. Next, we're going to open the selection manager because we want to be able to interact with the soil. We want to be able to point at it and plant the seeds or the plants. So we're going to scroll to the update method and we have the different selections. So we're going to reach the bottom over here before these final lines, and we're going to add a case for the soil. Now it's going to be similar to the other ones, so we can just copy the campfire one. It's going to be a bit different, but you don't need to type everything all over again. So we're simply going to change the campfire into soil. Then we also need to have a reference to the selected soil, like we have with all of these other things. So over here, selected soil, and this is just so we don't get a null reference when we're not selecting the soil but still want to access it. So over here we set the selected soil to be soil game object, and we also set the selected soil to be over here instead the campfire. Next, we also want to add a case over here, so it will delete the text if we are not hovering over the soil. Is not soil. And lastly, we want to add display and range into the soil script. So we open the soil script, and we're going to add the code that we have for the storage box or the campfire to check if the player is in range. So we go into the storage box and we copy this entire update and we paste it inside. And this is just another way to check if the player is in range. Now if we run the game and we get closer to the soil, it's going to say soil. And if we move far away, it's not going to say anything. Next, we want to be able to actually hold some kind of seed, and then when we click on this area, it's going to plant it. So now we want to create some kind of seed for the testing. Of course, you can have a way to maybe buy these seeds, or maybe you can gather these seeds from the environment. This is really up to you. I'm just going to show you how you create these seeds and then how you plant them. So we simply go into our resources folder. We find some kind of inventory item, let's say the stone. Then we press on Ctrl D to duplicate. And we're going to rename this to be tomato seed. And over here, we should rename this to be tomato seed. I'm not going to deal with the description and the functionality, but it's important that it's equipable, right? Because we want to be able to equip it and hold it in our hand. You can make it trashable if you want, but it's really up to you. The important part is this is equipable is selected. Now we also want to change the sprites, so we do see some kind of difference. I have all of these, and I don't really have a tomato one. Maybe later I'm going to find something, but it's the tomato seed, so I'm just going to use some kind of small bag of seeds. Now we also want to drag our tomato seed into the inventory so we don't have to deal with crafting it or something like that each time we want to test this. So we go into the canvas, inventory screen, and we drag the tomato seed inside one of our slots. So now when we click on this item inside the inventory, it should actually instantiate some kind of hand that is holding these seeds. Now, of course, you can make it work in other ways. Maybe you want to hold some kind of shovel or something like that in order to be able to plant it. Maybe you don't want to display anything, just to click on the ground. I'm just showing you one way. You can do it in other ways. So I want to instantiate a model of a hand that is going to hold some seeds, and it will give the player some kind of visual understanding what he is holding. So I'm going to use this simple hands asset, And again, it's free, it's simple. Maybe it doesn't suit your game, but if you just want this for a placeholder, you can use it. So again, when you download this, you simply drag the prefab into the player tools holder, and then you find the exact position, so you will be able to instantiate it in the correct position. And we already did this with the axe and things like that. I already have this hand over here, and I also have the positions, but all I did was go into, let's find it, simple hands, prefabs. I took this hand, I dragged it into the tools holder, and then it should basically just appear in front of the player. So you need to play around with the positioning. You can move it over here, then you can rotate it, right? Then you can rotate it on its side until you find the perfect position. Anyway, I already did all of this fine-tuning, so I have this saved inside the prefab. So the same way, when you are done with the positioning, simply create a prefab out of it. So if I drag this hand model into the tools holder, I have it positioned over here. So you can look at my positions. Maybe it's not going to be correct for you, but this is the positions that I'm using. You can also see that the scale on the X is -1. And this is because I wanted the hand to be inverted. So instead of the thumb to be on this side, I wanted it to be on this side, because this should be the right hand, right? And the prefab that we get over here, even if we rotate this, we get the left hand. So if you want to get a right hand version, you simply do this -1 and it's going to invert the entire model. Now another thing that I have on this prefab, if I open it, I have these small spheres that I added on the palm of the hand, and these should be like small seeds, right? This is just a small sphere with some kind of brown color, and it looks like he is holding some seeds. Of course, you can make it one seed if you want to plant one tomato plant. It's really up to you. I added a few seeds so it will look like he's actually holding something, and this is actually a part of the model. So it's all inside of this prefab, and I saved this prefab inside the resources folder and I named it hand model. And this is important because later we're going to instantiate this from the code, so you should know what is the name of this prefab. It doesn't have to be exactly like this one, but you have to use the exact name that you have. So basically, when we're going to click on the seed or any seed inside the inventory, it's going to instantiate this hand, and then the player can go to the soil, point at the soil, and plant the seed. Next, we're going to open the equip system because we want to deal with instantiating this hand model. So over here, we're going to scroll down. Where is it? Yes, over here. When we actually want to set the equipped model, for now you can see that we have this hard-coded value for the axe, because we only created this once for the axe and we have these hard-coded values, but obviously it should not be hard-coded because now we also have the hand that is not using these values. We are still going to have this model, so it's going to be axe model or hand model. That's why I said that it's important that you have it the same way over here. So you have the name of the thing and then underscore model. But obviously we don't want to hard code these spawning positions, so we're going to change this. So for now, we're going to select all of this and we're going to press on Control KC and we're going to comment this out. We're still going to leave this selected item name because we do want to remove this clone name. So we're going to still set it to be the selected item model, but this time we're going to instantiate it by actually checking what is the model that we want to instantiate and then get the position. So we're going to have a method inside that is going to be named calculateItemModel. And then inside we're going to provide the name of the item. And we're going to generate this method. And over here we're going to create a switch. Okay, so if the selected item name is X, then we're going to return the X model string, and then it will know to instantiate the X model from the resources folder. If we get the tomato seed, then it's going to instantiate the hand model. So the tomato seed, this string over here, is the exact same name that you're going to have on your inventory item, right? So don't get confused. If you place a space over here, this should also be a space over here. And then later, when we have more seeds, then we can use and return the same hand model. So for now, we only have a tomato seed, and we actually don't need this anymore. And the reason we saved these before is because we wanted to make sure that it gets spawned at these positions. But if you actually look at it and go into our X prefab, we already have all of these positions and rotations inside the actual X model, right? 0.6, 0.4, 12.5. So we have all of these values saved inside the X model. So we don't need to specify this over here, because when we instantiate the model, it's going to get instantiated at these positions that are saved over here. So we can delete this entire thing. And now it will check what is the item that we want to instantiate, and it's going to instantiate it based on the positions that it has. And the same way, if we have the hand, it's going to use these positions. Another good reason for creating it this way and checking what is the model is because now if we go to this method over here where we check what is the number that we press on inside the quick slot panel, we hard-coded this sound for the X, this draw metallic sound. But we don't need this if we draw the hand, right? We don't need to play this if we select the hand. We only need to play this if we select the X or maybe another metallic tool. So we can simply cut this out from here and only play it when we actually select the X. And maybe if we have a sword later, then we can play this same sound. But if it's a tomato seed and a hand model, we don't need to play this sound. So here we can do different things that are only relevant for the model that we want to use. And now if we run the game and we right click on this tomato seed, then it's going to bring it into the quick slot. And then if we press on 1, it's going to instantiate the hand model. And now we basically want to approach this soil, and when we have this hand model out with the seed, then we're going to be able to click on this and plant the seeds. So to do this, we want to have a way to check if we're holding a seed in our hand. So let's open the equip system. Next to this is holding weapon, we can have another method that is going to be named public bool is player holding seed. Now there's a few ways to do it. We can simply check if the player is holding one of our seeds, but then we need to check all of the different seeds that are possible. And this is just going to be annoying because each time we add a new seed into the game, we will have to add it over here. So it's not a good idea, because we can do something like that. If So we can simply check if the name of this item is tomato seed, it means that we're holding a seed. But if we have 100 other seeds, then we're going to have to add them over here, 100 other seeds. So it's not a very efficient way to do it. It will work and you can do it, but it's not good in the long run because you're going to have to always add these and change them over here. A simpler way to do it is simply check if the hand model is out, because if the hand model is out, it means that we're obviously holding a seed, right? So instead of using the selected item, we can use the selected item model. So we're simply going to replace these, and then the selected item model will have its own name. It will not have an inventory item, but it's going to have a game object with a name. And the name is going to be hand model. And I'm guessing that it's also going to have this clone extension, but we can also have another one without the clone, maybe if we're not testing this out, but it will have the clone because we're basically instantiating this. And then back inside the selection manager, we're going to change this code a bit to check if the player is holding a seed, and if it's holding a seed, we are going to be able to plant it. So now this if will become an else if, and over here we're going to add a new if. So this will be an else if, else, and another if. So if the soil is empty, and then we also want to have the option to actually press on our mouse and to plant. So if input get mouse button down 0, so the left mouse button, soil, plant seed, and we still don't have this method. And we also want to destroy the actual hand model, and we want to destroy the item that we have inside the inventory, the seed. So now we want to generate this method as well. It's going to generate it inside a soil script. So generate. And if we control and click on this method, it's going to open it inside the soil script. Over here, we're going to add some code. So inside, we're simply going to get a reference to the selected seed by going into the equip system and checking what is the selected item. And this will obviously happen before the seed is destroyed, so there will be enough time to get this reference. And then we're also going to set the boolean to be false, and we're going to set the plant name to be the selected seed's name. So we need to create a reference for this inside the soil. And this is just so we have a reference to the name of the seed that is planted inside the soil. And instead of saying name of plant, we can simply go over here, soil, plant name. So if it's not empty and we don't want to plant the seed, then it means that there is some kind of seed inside and we're going to see the name of the plant. And if we want to plant the seed, we don't want to say plant seed, we want to specify the name of the seed. So plant, and we get the name of this plant. But at this point, we still don't have a reference to this plant name because it only happens over here. So we have to reach into the equip system like we did over here inside the soil and get the entire name. So let's copy all of this and we can use this inside a selection, this name, because at this point we still don't have this plant name saved inside the soil. Now there is a small problem, and the problem is that at this point it's going to say plant tomato seed. But maybe we want to just say plant tomato. So we're going to change the code a bit. Over here, well, actually before all of this, we're going to have a string seed name. And this will be this long line. So this is the entire seed name. And then we also have only plant name. So here we're simply going to cut out the seed part of the string. For this, we're going to say seed name split and this is just a way to cut out this part. So we simply take the entire string, which is tomato seed, we split it over here, so we split this part, and then we simply save the first index, which is 0, right? So the first index will be this part. So we're going to save this inside the only plant name. And now we can simply use this over here, plant only plant name, and this will say plant tomato. And we can do the same thing inside the soil script. So let's copy this only plant name, go into the soil script, and over here we can set the selected seed. Over here, it's going to split this. Well, first we need to get the actual name. And it's going to split it, and it's going to save it inside, and then we're going to set it to be the plant name. So now it's going to be tomato and not tomato seed. And now let's see if everything is working, because we had a lot of changes. So if we select this tomato seed, we right click on it, and then we instantiate the hand. We go over here, and we can see that there is a bug. So it doesn't recognize that we're holding a seed. I guess there is a problem with this is player holding seed. You can see over here that it says that the selected item model is hand_model clone. But we can see that there is no space between the clone and the model. So that's the problem. Over here I had the space. So let's just remove this. So now we're going to select the tomato seed and we're going to plant it. And you can see that it no longer says tomato seed, it just says tomato. And over here we still just have soil, but over here we have a tomato and we don't see the tomato seed inside the inventory anymore because it was destroyed. So now we need to be able to actually grow this plant, and it should take us time, and then when it reaches a certain age we're going to be able to pick up tomatoes from it. And we also want to have an option to water these plants, because if we don't water it, it will not grow. But all of this will happen in the next episodes. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you're still not subscribed. Please leave a like, it will always help me, and I'll see you next time.